the trade that I have concocted, and it's a huge fit trade in my mind, is the Timberwolves are sending out, and you're gonna scream and you're gonna be very upset.
Reed, I'll throw up on you.
They're sending out Naz Reid.
No.
There's going to be an NBA Netflix documentary featuring LeBron James, Jimmy Butler, Jayson Tatum, Domantas Sabonis, and Anthony Edwards. I'm excited for that. Leonard and Kawhi George extension talk. George hasn't signed yet. Dejounte Murray trades, and so much more. We've got a jam-packed episode. We are back. Foul trouble time.
Foul trouble time. We're fastly approaching the trade deadline. I feel like so much is going on. Every famous football coach in the world is getting fired. How are you doing today, James?
I'm kind of in shock from NFL Black Monday myself. Go a little off topic. Belichick, the greatest coach ever. Pete Carroll, one of the greatest ever. Mike Vrabel, who I think honestly could be one of the next great football coaches, also got fired. It's hard to wrap my head around it. I went to a Raptors Lakers game this earlier this week where, at the game there was a few calls I thought were a little odd, and then you go home and you find out that the Raptors are throwing temper tantrums at the post-game presser.
Darko Rajakovic was heated.
They asked LeBron about it, and he had a quote that I was dying for. He said, quote, "I felt like they fouled and we didn't," which hilarious.
The last 2-minute report, or the 2-minute report came out, and the only changes that Sakakis said would have been more fouls against the Raptors, which is kind of hilarious.
So here's the thing. I see a lot of people are banned. I know this isn't the lead topic. We're going to get to the other stuff. But the lead thing I keep seeing is the Lakers shot 19 free throws in the last 2 minutes and the Raptors shot 2. Well, in reality, the Raptors played the foul the Lakers the moment they inbound the basketball game, 4 possessions after the game was over. Yeah. So it's one of those things where that's a little misleading. Also, where I feel like the Raptors really lost the game was it was tied with a minute left. The Raptors score. The Lakers inbound the ball and they just throw the ball 80 feet down the court to Anthony Davis, who's one-on-one. What do you think's going to happen with AD, who's been going off all night? He's going to get the and one. That's why you lose the game.
Did Siakam play in that one?
He did.
Yeah, I went to the Clippers Raptors game last night, and any time where you're starting Thad Young, I'm not going to be surprised if there's a 23-2 free throw disparity in any single quarter. But we're burying the lead. Netflix is partnering with the NBA for this huge quarterback-esque docuseries.
Yeah, so they did a show called Quarterback, and I think they're running it back this season. I'm excited. It was a really good show. Basically, they followed Patrick Mahomes, Kirk Cousins, and Marcus Mariota for the entire NFL season last year, and you kind of got to see behind the scenes of what it's like to be an NFL quarterback at the 3 different levels of quarterbacking, MVP level, pretty good level, and journeyman level. This is a different cast because the worst player out of the 5, and the 5 being LeBron James, Jayson Tatum, Jimmy Butler, Anthony Edwards, and Sabonis, I would say is Sabonis, and Sabonis is a pretty good NBA player. But I think it's a little bit better to go down this path where it's 5 good players, because the issue the quarterback show had was Mariota literally got benched, and anything about him going forward at that point was really not athletes getting benched. We kind of talked about this. We've all seen that story. It's not that compelling anymore as a sports viewer.
I'm really interested to see how much LeBron James lets us in.
Well, I'm curious too, because LeBron has apparently been working on a documentary about his career, his entire career. It's kind of this weird behind the scenes, not that open secret, yeah. Where apparently literally since LeBron's rookie year, the NBA has been documenting him.
And he's just going to wait till Wemby has a really great season late on it.
Yeah, Wemby wins his third MVP
career
in a row, and LeBron's the first dance, motherfucker.
There we
go. I'm excited. I'm really excited for Anthony, or it's gonna be a shot of LeBron James in a cryogenic chamber, like a cyborg, and it's gonna be the narrator is gonna be LeBron James spends his 6th hour in the cryogenic chamber awaiting his game against the Clippers. Swipe transition, and it's Anthony Edwards pounding 2 McDonald's cheeseburgers.
Yeah, it's just wolfing down some hot fries.
Yeah.
I did think after I saw what the cast is for it, where do you go from there? They're really setting the bar high.
That's the thing. LeBron in the first, but I guess that's how they did with quarterback too. You get a
Yeah,
Patrick,
you get the guy.
I think the guy I'm actually almost a little bit more interested in than all of the other four, just because like I feel like we don't really know too much about him, is Jimmy Butler.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited to see that. I think low key Deuce Tatum might end up being just like the biggest star to come out of this show at all.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fun too that we've got like Jayson Tatum and who's on the Celtics, who are probably going to finish with the best record in the league. We've got Anthony Edwards, who I know the Timberwolves are not necessarily in a slide, but they've kind of regressed from like best team in the West status. And I think like they're like a fun season too, just because like Minnesota Timberwolves really have never quite had a season like this ever. And I think like that's going to be interesting. Sabonis, the Kings are kind of good, not up and down, but LeBron too is going to be like this whole Darvin Ham thing too. Like that's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, seeing like really the inner workings. I don't know exactly when this comes out, but obviously it hasn't been the smoothest season in LA, and getting to watch that retrospective of really what was going on, I hope we're able to see, and it's not just like, this is how these players work out. They're in really great shape.
How much heat culture propaganda are we getting from the Jimmy sections?
So much. The very first time we see Jimmy Butler, they're going to zoom in on that court. And we're just going to...
It's going to be this like epic hero shot of two of them walking into the Heat practice court. And it's going to be like him and Bam. And it's going to be kind of like silhouette lighting. And it's going to be like playing clips from the media. It's going to be like, I think the Milwaukee Bucks are the Eastern favorites. Boston Celtics going to the finals. Joel Embiid's the MVP. And then it'll be like the narrator's going to be like, the Miami Heat went to the finals last season and nobody believes in them. I can already tell like the way this show is going to go.
Yeah, that's the way you package it. That's the way you sell it.
I'm so excited for it.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I think the memes are going to be aplenty, which is probably why I'm most excited for it. But
is there a teammate of any of these five guys that you're like, I'm kind of excited for his cameos?
Like, okay, so who
what if we get the Anthony Edwards cameo and then we find out Karl Towns is a third voice that no one knew about?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm interested to see Cat a little bit. I honestly, I'd love to see, like, is A-Rod gonna be in there at all? Like a little Timberwolves owner ness. I don't know. Like AD's not like the funnest personality. Maybe we fall in love with him a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, De'Aaron's a cool guy. I've met De'Aaron. I'm excited to see him with Sabonis a little bit. Yeah, I guess like, it's going to be very Edwards focused. We probably aren't going to get, oh my God, you know what I realized? Patrick, Anthony Edwards was involved in the Draymond choking out Gobert game. The Timberwolves.
Oh, that's going to be
on this
so
documentary.
Good. And Draymond went to LeBron's birthday party. Are we going to finally get some inside of LeBron's birthday party footage? I don't know. It's going to be too good.
Okay, I have to say one just completely unrelated thing. I was with the guys yesterday and we're talking about which NBA Twitter parody accounts consistently will fool you. So I haven't been ball sacked yet, but you know what parody account gets me every time? For like a minute I fall for it before I realize.
Which one?
The fake Draymond Green that just glazes LeBron. I fall for it almost every time.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I didn't even know that existed, so I think I've fallen for it every single time. But yeah, the Woj ones are the ones that get me upset. The Woj ones and the Shams ones, that's an immediate block if I see it.
If you get ball sacked by them.
Yep.
All right. So do you want to go to Dejounte Murray or do you want to go to the Clippers extension news?
Let's hit the Clippers extensions stuff real quick, I guess. And then we'll jump to the fake trades.
So Kawhi Leonard just signed a 3-year, $154.2 million extension with the Clippers. He's currently 32, so that'll keep him under contract till he's 35. Paul George is currently 33 years old. He's in talks for contract extension. I imagine they get that done sometime in the next 2 weeks. And no talk about extension on this guy, but I just wanted to know it. Harden, he's 34, is an unrestricted free agent at the end of the season.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a huge coup to be able to get Kawhi Leonard at at this number that's a little bit under the max, which is awesome. And I mean, he's playing like the best player in the league right now. So the Clippers are not set up in a way where they have the ability to take any steps back. They still don't really have access to a lot of their picks going forward. So, I mean, I think it's just a no-brainer to do this.
Yeah, I the only thing I do caution, just because we've seen with Leonard the health, right? This is the healthiest Leonard's been. And I think that's kind of the sneaky thing about injury-prone players is sometimes injury-prone players are just like freak thing after freak thing. Like, it's like Anthony Davis is still called doubtful. And I think I saw some stat that Anthony Davis has played like 2 of the last 96 Laker games or something. Like, guy doesn't really miss time anymore, but that could change if he just steps on someone's foot, right?
Absolutely.
So there's a world where like this Leonard extension could get rough if he kind of has a lot of the same injury stuff crop up. But there's also a world where like that might have just been a weird blip for like 4 years that might have finally come to an end.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Just like the extension and all of this, I went and saw the Clippers live last night. I'm getting to a place where I've always been all in on Kawhi, but I don't know if there's a guy I would rather have in a playoff series right now than Kawhi Leonard. Like, and to double down on that, I don't know if I would pick any team in a playoff series against this Clippers team over them. That's where I am right now.
Oh, see, I'm not quite there with you. I personally would much rather have Jokic, and I would take the Nuggets against the Clippers right now myself. But Leonard's been awesome. I mean, that's kind of been the thing. Like the last 2 playoffs, like he's been really, really good in those first rounds. When he's played, he just gets hurt.
Yeah.
And that's why I still don't have the Clippers as title contenders, because I'm still in like prove it mode.
Okay. Yeah, I mean,
prove that you can
that's
stay
fair.
healthy mode. Like I'm just kind of, even Harden, you kind of forget. Like I know last year he kind of like flamed out, but he got hurt like the year with Brooklyn, and like I don't know. Like the last 2 years with Harden, like in the playoffs, man, have just been like, all right, dude.
The fact that they don't have to ask anything of James Harden is just insane to me. Like in the game last night against the Raptors, they had no interest in playing any defense, but the isolation scoring between the 3 guys that we've already talked about and Norm Powell, it's just like, it's almost not fair. Like they're buckets on buckets on buckets. 4th in net rating right now, 6th in offense, 11th in defense. And I think they have a move that they could make and to make their roster even better. I've been so impressed by this Clippers team. And I think if there's ever been a year with this Kawhi PG core, it's this year.
Yeah, I mean, it probably is going to have to be this year, to be honest, because I know, they're signing these guys to extensions, which I do like. And the Clippers are opening a new arena next year, so, they don't want to suck the first year they have their new arena. But let's not forget where we were on Monday this week, where we were like, okay, Steph's 35, Clay's 33, Draymond's 34, Chris Paul, Kawhi's 33 next year, George is 34 next year, Harden is 35 next year, they kind of, I mean, maybe not this year, but it's probably has to be this year or next year, or I'd feel confident in saying if they don't win by the end of next season, the window's closed.
Yeah, I mean, that's
even if the surrounding pieces were really, really good still, just because I don't know, man. It's the thing with Kawhi, right? Going back to the health thing, he's been healthy. He's also 32, and that we'll see. I'm not wishing anything ill upon them. I love Kawhi Leonard. I love Paul George, but it is scary just given their injury history.
I was really surprised. I didn't realize. I don't. It just didn't make sense in my head that Paul George is older than Kawhi Leonard.
It's weird. Paul George was a full NBA superstar before Kawhi Leonard was even an all-star caliber player.
And two Finals MVPs later, Kawhi still seems like the older player.
It's it's crazy. The revisionist NBA history is if there's no George Hill trade, Kawhi and Paul George are teammates on the Pacers.
That is weird. That is super weird. It was almost meant to be.
Yeah,
it was almost meant to be. But yeah, and I just want to throw these in. You talked about Paul George's extension is
Coming.
of hinted it's coming. He said after the game yesterday that he's very, very optimistic that something will get done. And just that he's extremely excited for Kawhi reaching the deal to be a Clipper for the rest of his career. Yeah, do you think this is Kawhi's last contract?
Yeah, I don't see Kawhi as being the type of guy who's going to play like till 38.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I don't think he's going to stick around either.
His body will not allow him to do that.
Yeah, that is
Yeah,
true.
how did Kawhi look in person? Do you remember? Because we went to their opener together, and he looks good. Like he gets to his spots in the mid range and like elevates and nails it. But like, man, sometimes when Kawhi's like running down the court, you don't see it on TV. But when you go to Clipper games in person, like it kind of looks like it's like a struggle for him to like run up and down the court sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, like he definitely plays at his own pace, but he just looks strong.
He's
in
always
my
been
opinion.
really strong.
Like when he's dribbling, it looks like the ball's gonna go through the court. You know?
Yeah.
And when his jumper is on, I just don't know what you do with this guy.
No, he's like one of those guys where it's just like, I'm going to pull up for that 16-footer and you're just not going to stop me. That's why it's funny because, you know, Ant aesthetically is the guy who I feel like all reminds us of Jordan. But like there's like been a couple of years where people are like, Kawhi's the modern Jordan. Just like that unstoppable, like tween pull-up game. Like,
Yeah, I mean, I definitely saw that in the mid-range, especially in that Toronto run. The big difference between him and I guess
I
it
don't
could
think
be
he
like
plays
old
like Jordan,
Jordan.
at all, other than the shot chart maybe looking a little similar.
It's the body movement for me that really like throws me off. Like I just feel like Jordan was much more fluid and
Way
a
more
little
fluid,
bit less
yeah.
plotting than Kawhi. But I mean I think he looked good last night, and I'm just really excited to see if he can, once it's playoff time, can he reach back and just like get to the rim at will like he was doing in that Toronto run? I think he probably can, but then you get into like the game of like he's taking a lot more contact. How's his body going to hold up to something like that?
I actually don't necessarily think for the Clippers to win the title, he needs to go on a Toronto-like run, because I think the thing with the Toronto run was there was a lot of games where he's putting up these absurd point totals, but there were a lot of games he's almost at like 30 field goal attempts. And like, I don't think it's a good thing for this Clippers team if he has a game where he's at 32 field goal attempts.
Yeah, no, that's probably not an indication of great
Successful
process.
offense,
Yeah.
But no, Clippers are a full-blood title team. Like, I was very down on the Harden trade. Like, we'll still see how the season pans out, right? Like, we're not even halfway through the season. But, like, as of right now, to your point, this team looks like one of the best teams in the West.
Yeah, so Clip City, Chip City, baby.
Lob City Clips, Lob City
We'll
Clips.
see what happens.
I do miss my childhood Lob City Clippers. But, all right, Dejounte Murray, second guy, kind of second star on the Hawks. You know, they traded for him from the San Antonio Spurs. The Hawks are, quote, open to almost anything. The Hawks obviously have kind of just had a season that's not very inspiring. Doesn't really look like they're going anywhere. So suffice to say, it looks like they're going to probably head more toward the tank direction than the compete for the playoff direction. Shams reported the Spurs are interested in trading for Murray. So right now Murray's averaging 20.9 points, 4.6 rebounds, and 5 assists. I noted this just because it's kind of my weekly bit on the Spurs, but nobody on the Spurs is currently averaging 5 assists per game.
Oh, surprise.
Yeah.
Did you see that full court Wemby just dot to Sohan streaking down? Why not point Wemby? Well, I'm ready for that experiment.
So I've been kind of clamoring for the Spurs to trade for a point guard like all season, or at least start Trey Jones, because Trey Jones actually would be averaging over 5 assists a game if he had Sohan's minutes flipped. But so one thing I kind of did a deep dive into, like, how does Murray and Wemby look? So Murray, as a pick and roll ball handler this season, is averaging exactly 1 point per play. So he's kind of like a tier 2 pick and roll ball handler. Like, the one thing with Murray, though, is he's averaging like 7-ish pick and roll ball handler possessions a game. And he's averaging like 6 field goals out of that action, which is like, dude, you do not pass out of this action.
Because when you get the ball and you play next to Trae Young,
You want to shoot.
Yeah,
So I
exactly.
do imagine that he becomes a little bit more pass friendly out of pick and roll sets. / I think one sneaky thing with like when you're pairing guards and bigs is like, this was always the weird thing with Harden and Embiid, was like Harden loves to run that pick and roll from that right wing, and Embiid loves to like post up on the left block. And it's like this weird thing where when Harden runs the pick and roll with Embiid, Embiid's like on the side of the court he doesn't really like as much. Whereas like Dejounte is kind of like pretty balanced, but a little bit more left leaning. And Wemby's a little bit more right side of the court leaning, which gives them a lot more like synergy, I feel like, on their like kind of pick and roll game. Murray coming off to the left. So I think this would be a really good trade for the Spurs. I'm just kind of curious like how the Hawks are going to value Murray. So Murray is a unrestricted free agent at the end of the season.
Yeah, I mean, one really important aspect to this whole conversation that I think we need to bring up is that the Hawks are really not in a place where they can tank. The Spurs still own, I think, 2 or 3 of their picks from the initial Dejounte Murray trade. So they don't want to be like the proxy tankers for the Spurs.
But this could be an avenue to get worse by trading Murray and then get the picks back.
Potentially. So give me your Spurs trade.
I feel like, well, knowing how the picks and Murray fit together, they have to give the Spurs have to give the Hawks some of those picks back.
Yes.
At least this year's.
Yeah, absolutely. But then it's like, I don't know. The one thing that really lit up my like alarm bell is when all of this talk started, it all kind of sprouted from a Jake Fisher report saying Trae Young is untouchable in trade talks, but Dejounte Murray is widely available to interested suitors. What that tells me is that they're still committed to Trae Young being their star. Trae Young is approaching his prime, in the start of his prime. And it's going to be a really tough sell to be like, yeah, this guy that we acquired to be your running mate for the foreseeable future, we traded him for picks. So that's why I just I don't see it with the Spurs.
But I mean, I feel like if you're Atlanta, though, you have to acknowledge like this team construction isn't getting. So you're thinking they need to trade Murray for somebody who's similar in skill and just try to reconfigure what's going on?
Yeah, I mean, I think they need to trade for a piece that they're excited about, and they need to use him to get off either the Clint Capella money or the DeAndre Hunter money, who DeAndre Hunter's been like really hit or miss, but I don't love paying him $20 million a year for the next 4 years.
Sorry, I completely misspoke. I want to correct myself. So he's not an unrestricted free agent at the end of the season. He actually signed an extension with the Hawks. I totally flubbed that. So he signed an extension with the Hawks. So his salary is jumping from 17.7 this year to 24.8 next year.
Which is still a reasonable contract for a guy like DeJounte.
Yeah, it's a great contract for a guy like DeJounte. And I feel like if you're the Spurs, right? Like, see, I guess you don't want to trade him to the Spurs because you think the Hawks should. I don't know, man. I just don't think the Hawks can make lateral moves that are ever going to amount to them getting better. Like, I feel like they kind of have to take a step backward.
You're going to have to take a tiny step backwards because I don't think you're going to get a guy of DeJounte Murray's ilk, but I think you can get right around there. So I came up with a couple trades. First of which, I'll do my most boring trade first, and then we'll progress with the spiciness. The first team that I think is a logical fit for DeJounte Murray that has a good amount of assets is the Hawks. Is the Nets. The Hawks will also be involved in this trade. The Nets don't really have a clear answer at point guard going forward, and they don't really have clear star talent. The Nets have really shown that they love like long, rangy defenders, which DeJounte Murray not so much has been this year, but in the past has shown that he's been really great at. So the trade construction that I built was Cam Johnson, Dorian Finney-Smith for DeJounte Murray and DeAndre Hunter. If I'm the Nets, I'm really not looking to add any picks in a package like that. But I think something like that would really change the wing room for the Hawks in a huge way.
Who are they getting from the Nets?
They're getting Cam Johnson and Dorian Finney-Smith. So they're losing the best guy in the trade, but the Hawks are cleaning up their cap sheet a little bit by replacing DeAndre Hunter with, I think, 2 much better wings who are on long-term contracts.
Okay. I think the hard part about this conversation is I think you're much higher on Murray than I am.
Okay.
I think the Spurs could get this trade done with Keldon Johnson and picks.
I mean, if it's their picks, yeah. I'm saying no picks in this deal.
Okay. I just, the thing with Murray for me is like, it's like oddly, like I'm like, I think he's good, but I don't know if Murray really is a guy who can, I really don't think Murray could be a top 2 guy on a title team. I don't see it with him.
Yeah, I don't see that either. But I mean, he's having the best offensive season of his career. The fit is awful. They're asking this guy to be the number 1 wing stop or like number 1 guard stopper on their team, which like is not how he really got his bones in San Antonio. He was playing next to Derek White for the vast majority of that. Of course, we didn't know who Derek White was, but I hear you. He's not a top 2 guy.
Like if I was a Nets fan, I would be not happy with that trade.
Really?
Yeah.
For Cam, I mean, talk about Cam Johnson's he's at best the 4th best guy on a championship team.
But Cam Johnson is the archetype of a player that every single team really, really, really needs.
Yeah, but
3 and D wings like Cam that can play the 3 or the 4 or even the 2. Like almost every single team in the NBA needs a guy like that.
But you know what else you need is like a great point guard. And there's like, he is a very, very top flight point guard in this league.
Yeah, I think the guard, I don't know. I just think it's easier to get a guy who can run the pick and roll than it is to get a guy who's just a really good 3 and D wing who can play 2, 3, or 4. Now, I think in a straight up trade, Murray has more value. But DFS is another one of those guys where it's just like every team wants a DFS, and he's on such a good contract.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll keep it rolling. Yeah, I think our evaluations of these guys.
Okay, what is your next trade?
So my next one, Max. I shouted you out. The Timberwolves are on a bit of a slide. They're 5-5 in their last 10 games. I obviously think the Timberwolves are still a huge threat in the West.
Do you want to take away Kyle Anderson, please?
No, I'll take away Kyle Anderson and put him on the Suns, but I'm not putting him on the Hawks.
Okay.
The trade that I have concocted, and it's a huge fit trade in my mind, is the Timberwolves are sending out, and you're gonna scream and you're gonna be very upset.
Reed, I'll throw up on you.
They're sending out Naz Reid and Mike Conley, who Mike Conley is on an expiring deal, for Dejounte Murray and Clint Capella.
Oh.
Now, you got your point guard of the future. Dejounte Murray can be this like huge freelancer around these amazing perimeter defenders. It kind of makes sense of the big rotation moving forward. And Naz Reid would be the perfect big man fit next to Onyeka Okongwu. He can shoot. He's a 40% three-point shooter. I love Naz Reid, but I really, really love how Dejounte Murray would raise their ceiling in terms of like title contention.
How do you feel about that?
I wouldn't say that it's a bad trade by any means, but I do think that Naz Reid is like a huge part of what makes our team like actually stand a chance. Because when like Cat is not popping off and like Gobert is not popping off, like you send Naz in and he's just like a guaranteed bucket.
Yeah, because I don't think it's necessarily the worst trade from a value standpoint. I guess if I'm the Timberwolves though, I'm like Capella's great. But what's cool about the Naz, Cat, Gobert is like any two of them can play together at the same time, whereas Capella and Gobert cannot play together. That's and you've removed this versatility you had with your big man, triumphant.
100%.
And then, I don't know. I mean, the scary thing with Murray, though, right, is like we know he can be a better passer than he's been here with Atlanta, but like he kind of has the Trae Young, like, your turn, my turn. And it's like, that's how he's been playing for a year and a half now. So it's like, I don't know, man. Like, I'd be a little nervous giving up the traditional type point guard on a team like that.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. But then also just like instead of having the second best perimeter guy on you every day, I guess you've still got the second best perimeter guy on you, but you also have the gravity of a Karl Anthony Towns to work off of and the rolling gravity of a Rudy Gobert, which like Clint Capella is not that guy anymore.
Do you, I guess like, okay, so I think it's like, this is a really interesting conversation because I do think, as we've seen alone on this podcast, like the valuation of Dejounte Murray could kind of be all over the place, right? It could be like, you either are like, DeJounte's way better than he's showing in Atlanta, and a lot of it is like Trae Young is just way too heliocentric for a player like DeJounte to succeed. Or you're kind of on my end of the spectrum where you're like, I think he's good, but I don't know if he's like a true difference maker on a really good team. And I think that's what makes this so interesting. But I guess like, I think it's like worth like, what is the Hawks' ideal team construction? Like, what does a Trae Young title contending team look like?
Yeah, I mean, I think at this point, you just got to lean into the heliocentric model and get really, really great wing defenders that can shoot. Like, I think of any of these trades, I love the Naz Reid idea for them, but I would probably choose the Cam Johnson, Dorian Finney-Smith, just because I think once you have guys that can stretch the floor in a real way, you can just let Trae be Trae.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a way you can win a title. I have never loved Trae's brand of heliocentric basketball myself, and I feel like it's almost like too rigid in that it's like it's a dive big, it's Trae and the dive big run pick and roll, and then Trae, dissects the defense from there, and it's just very like one-dimensional to me. Yeah, and obviously it's not one-dimensional in the way that the Hawks can get like 10 different shots out of that one set, and that set is really hard to defend, but it is kind of like that same set.
Don't get me wrong. I don't think you can win a title with Trae being your number one guy, but
that's the problem is what does Trae look like in a number two role? Like I think the hard part with Trae is like Trae tomorrow could really lock in on defense, and Trae tomorrow could really be like, you know what? I'm going to start cutting more. But it's like Trae cutting to the basket off the ball is like one of the least threatening things, even though he's such a good at the rim finisher for his size, because it's like he is so small and frail.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I guess the way that you build. So how do you build a title team around Trae? You get Joel Embiid. But
that's the thing.
You get a dominant big.
Is like Trae pick and roll doesn't really work with Joel Embiid.
I mean,
Embiid's not that kind of a big man.
I don't think that's true. I think that they would make it work. Like we saw, it's just a souped up version of last year's Sixers team. Maybe it's not going to be the best scenario for Embiid, but I think that's how you like get the most value out of Trae.
Yeah, but if you want to get the most value out of the team, though, like I feel like Trae really needs to. It's tough though, right? Because I'm sure Trae's like, all right, cool. Like I'll try to do some off-ball movement. I'll play a little bit more like Steph, and then it's like maybe the team kind of suffers through that because the team is right now built around heliocentric Trae. But I think that's just the hard part with Trae, right? Like they need to figure out a way to get a player in there that'll make Trae play off the ball more.
Yeah,
and they need to make it so it's not so your turn, my turn with whoever that co-star is.
That's the problem right now. I think maybe I'm looking at this in kind of the wrong way. Maybe it's more of like a Iverson in 01 construction where you just get like a bunch of dudes that are absolutely incredible on defense, and you just hope that Trae Young can like make your offense good enough to survive.
See, that's where it's interesting is because like I think you were kind of talking about like Brooklyn Nets for DeJounte, where it's like I'm like, okay, so if I'm Brooklyn, why not give up even more and get Trae Young?
Yeah.
Like Trae Young is absolutely incredible. He's had that crazy streak of like 30 in 10 games or whatever, something in 10 assist games. Like that was like an all-time streak this season. It's just it is really hard when you play that style, and like the year they made the conference finals, like I think they got really lucky that they played two teams because they played the Knicks before Brunson got there, and the Knicks had no perimeter like I'm going to hunt Trae on defense guy, and they played the Sixers, and Ben Simmons had like a mental breakdown, and like they just didn't play a team that had literally that had a guard that could like score.
Yeah.
I think that it's a little fool's goldy that one run because it's like,
Oh, totally.
if they play this year's Knicks, like Jalen Brunson is hunting Trey every other possession.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. So this brings me to my last
Dejounte
Dejounte Murray trade. And I haven't spoken about it yet, but I think one very important item to note about Dejounte Murray is his representation. Dejounte Murray is a clutch sports guy. Where do clutch sports guys go, James?
The Lakers.
They go to the Lakers. And so I was digging into this. Off the bat, I would, if I'm the Lakers, I'm not trading that one first-round pick flat out for Dejounte Murray. I would not do that. But I would trade Austin Reeves. Now, Austin Reeves, super good. I love Austin Reeves. I think he's like such a like hidden gem that the Lakers organization discovered. But I'm starting to think that Austin Reeves is kind of Westbrookian in his offensive fit next to LeBron. He can shoot better than Westbrook, which is why it works as well as it does. But I think that possibly the best fit for Austin Reeves is to be a little bit more ball dominant. And when I was looking into the stats, do you know what the Lakers record is when Austin Reeves plays more than 30 minutes?
Oh, well, given that their record overall is not good, let's say they're 6 games under 500.
Yeah, there's 6-11.
Oh, that was very close.
2 of those games were the last 2 games that they played, which both squeak out wins.
Yeah.
And the other wins was the overtime game against the Clippers, 3-point win against the Suns, 6-point win against Cleveland, 3-point win against Orlando. Just barely eking out these wins.
And I think with Reeves, it's one of those things where like last season Reeves is like drawing fouls at like a ridiculous rate, and this season is like foul drawing rate goes down, and it's like you're not a great defensive player, so you lose a lot of value once you stop being able to get a lot of free throws.
Yes, hitting the nail on the head. We saw it a little bit in last season's postseason. We saw it in Team USA. Austin Reeves is a pigeon on defense, which like he tries hard, but he just doesn't have those tools, which Dejounte Murray absolutely has. Of Lakers 3-man lineups that have played more than 150 minutes together, Austin Reeves is in the 9 worst 3-man lineups, net ratings wise. And the also his like lineup stats with LeBron and AD are not good either.
So what's the trade? Because I think this is one of those trades where now I'm more on the like, okay, what are the Lakers going to have to give up in addition to Austin Reeves? Because Murray's better than Reeves.
Yes, Murray is better than Reeves. So I already said I'm not giving up that pick. So this is a huge sell high trade from the Lakers' point of view for me. And the Hawks are going to use this move to get off a little bit of contract. So they're trading Austin Reeves, Gabe Vincent, and Rui Hachimura for Dejounte Murray and Clint Capella. So it's really like leaning back into the kind of Rajon Rondo and Dwight Howard / JaVale McGee of the 2020 Lakers, getting bigger, getting a little bit more like on ball juice. Dejounte Murray is a better 3-point shooter than Austin Reeves. That's kind of the trade for me.
I kind of feel like in this trade, the Hawks need to get a little bit more. Because Capella is a good player.
He's been okay.
Because I think some Hawks fans hear that and they're like, Rui. Yeah. They're like, okay. Like we're just kind of shuffling whoever the kind of big chunky 3-man is next to Trey.
Yeah, but I feel like you kind of got to do that. Like you got to, like it's better to take a bite at the apple than, have that big man room clogged up. Like part of this move, I think for the Hawks, like we've talked about, is like clearing up the roster, making it make more sense. And I think although Onyeka Okongwu hasn't been amazing this season, it's time to just give him the keys.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of the trouble with the Hawks, right? Is like, I know we had our whole discussion about like, what does a Trae Young title team look like? It's like, and I feel like sometimes I come off really pessimistic on a lot of NBA players in this podcast, but a lot of times like the way guys play is a result of the situation they're in, the teammates they're playing with and all that. And it's like Murray on the Lakers, I think Murray would really excel in that situation, especially if they're going to get to keep Clint Capella and he gets to kind of run like bench units with like him and Capella or him and AD. And like Trae Young, like I don't think it's impossible for a team to win a title with Trae Young. Like I think it could happen. I guess my worry with the Hawks is it just seems like we keep going down this road of like heliocentric Trae ball with the dive big, and I like Onyeka so much because he kind of projects to be a little bit more switchable onto perimeter guys than like Capella does. But it's just like I feel like the Hawks need like I don't know. It's kind of tough. I feel like they really need like a really powerful playmaking wing.
Well, I mean,
and it's like I know Reeves.
Have you watched any Jalen Johnson? Jalen Johnson is awesome.
He's awesome, but like. And I've heard on some podcasts people be like, Jalen Johnson is going to save the Hawks season. I'm not quite sure about that.
The Hawks season is not being saved. And that's not what this trade is, I think. I think this trade is just, I don't know, I don't think Dejounte Murray's happy. I think the Hawks season's already kind of fucked. So it's just like, why not cash in?
Yeah. Yeah, this discussion has gone so much bigger than Dejounte trades. I'm just like, I don't know. The Hawks, like Trae, like for all his faults, is always going to have the Hawks like up there in offensive rating. And when you're up there in offensive rating, you're never going to be one of the worst teams.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is why I think,
He's
try
good.
to get it. But then again, now we're talking about the Lakers trade. I don't think an Austin Reeves, Trae Young team is like
Very
built
good
for success either.
Okay, I love the Lakers trade the most for both the team getting DeJounte and like, well, I don't like it for the Hawks as much. I like the other trades more for the Hawks, but I think that's why this DeJounte trade discussion is interesting. Just like, how do you value the guy?
Yeah.
So you really don't like you really don't want them to go in the direction of like, we're going to get our picks back and we might just suck this year.
Not really. I don't love that for the Hawks.
Because like what I'm worried about with like a Lakers trade like that is like you might really suck with Austin Reeves and DeJounte's place if your 2 point of attack defenders are Young and Reeves. Because like Murray is,
but Murray's kind of sucked this year on a defensive standpoint, anyways.
I know, but I feel like it could get a lot worse if Reeves is in Murray's place.
Yeah, I hear you. And I don't think the Lakers trade, like we've talked about, is the best value for the Hawks. And maybe they're able to maybe rope in a third team, divert Austin Reeves there for some more assets.
I like this trade more than Zach LaVine, I'll say that.
But yeah, right?
I don't know. I guess this is one of those things that you and I will see at the end of the season, maybe whose take was, I guess, a little bit more correct in the time. But yeah, I really, maybe it's just because I'm just so desperate to see Wemby play with a real point guard. And like, I'm just so desperate for it that I'm just like trying to gravitate this trade
I
toward
would
the Spurs.
love to see the Spurs trade happen, but I just don't see the value from the Hawks perspective.
So you
if
don't
I'm the
think, like-
Spurs, I'm giving you maybe one pick back.
Because I would rather have the Keldon Johnson plus like 2 Hawks picks.
I don't love Keldon Johnson, to be honest.
I mean, I don't love Keldon Johnson either, but I don't know. I feel like the Hawks, like I feel like the Hawks should be sellers. Like I think if they're going to try to move laterally and then build upon a lateral move, like they're just going to keep being this like 15-21 team that they've been. Like I don't see the way up from staying stagnant, me personally.
My thing is, if you're keeping Trae, you can't sell because you don't have your picks.
But you can get your picks back.
You can get maybe one pick back.
But then be good after this year.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, if you can get this year's pick back unprotected, which I don't know who is like who's making the Spurs spend that capital on a Dejounte Murray. I think they're going to lose like the cost analysis on Dejounte Murray when it's all said and done. But yeah, it's definitely a super interesting like predicament that they're in. And there's a bunch of teams that we haven't even mentioned. Like I think potentially the Knicks could try and get involved. I don't love that. We've seen the Trae Young, Dejounte fit, but that's definitely a market that is thirsty for a star. But yeah, it'll be, I think he will most likely be the biggest like swing piece that is traded at the deadline.
Yeah, I think he's probably going to be the biggest player traded unless we do get Zach LaVine trade. I mean, the Nets is weird. It seems like the Nets kind of want to add to what they have, but man, I feel like those Nets guys could get so much value on a trade market, especially in a buyer's market.
Well, I mean, it's the same thing with the Hawks with the Nets is they just don't control their own drafts. So why not go for it, you know?
Yeah, no, that's true. Well, but you don't think there's a world where the Hawks do the Brooklyn strategy where it's like, yeah, we don't own our picks, but you're going to give us your picks because we'll take your bad contract. And we're still going to be watchable basketball because we have Trae Young.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe we're sitting here in 2 weeks and we're talking about Trae Young trade because that's what we're dancing around.
Yeah.
It makes more sense to trade Trae Young. It makes more sense to trade them both. You can get a haul for them. And I do think Trae Young should have value around the league. I mean, 30-10 guys don't grow on trees.
I think that's the thing that I've kind of been dancing around is like, I don't know if Trae Young can ever win with the Hawks because whoever you're bringing in is always going to be brought into Trae's team. But if you added Trae to an already established star where it's like, I don't know, let's say it's 4 years from now, the Timberwolves are a little bit thinner, just random hypothetical, and it's like Ant, and the team around him isn't as good as this year's Timberwolves team, and it's like you add Trae Young to that version of Ant, and it's like, hey man, Ant's the guy.
Yeah.
Like you're joining Ant, so you're the second banana. Like I kind of feel like Trae, it's one of those shitty things in sports where it's like, I feel like that's the only scenario where I can see Trae Young really winning a title is even if it was like Ant joining the Hawks, I feel like doesn't work as much as Trae joining that team.
Yeah, no, you're right about that. I think you've got a great point there. I don't know, but I don't know if I'm the Timberwolves. Would you rather trade Cat for Trae Young or Naz Reid for Dejounte Murray? I just asked Max for all our audio listeners.
Cat for Trae Young or DeJounte for Nas?
Yeah, as like the frameworks.
I might take Trae.
Okay.
I don't know if that's the wrong answer.
Hey,
that's a tough question.
There's no wrong answer.
I mean, I like the way that Cat. It's interesting you're talking about like these number one guys and how like they have to like. To me, if the Clippers win a title in the next couple of years, it'll be this like great case study in like what happens to number one guys that never win chips. Because their whole roster is like all number one guys that had kind of just resigned to be like lesser than that, you know? Mm-hmm. And maybe that'll be the future of the NBA is like all of these number one guys on their teams who never win chips can just band together in these like clusters and win chips together when they're like 33.
Yeah.
It'll be, I mean, if that happens, it'll be kind of sick.
Yeah, no, I'm hoping for that personally.
But yeah, I mean, maybe Trae just never really makes it happen with the Hawks and then has to kind of have a second leg of his career where he's like a point guard on a really good team that's just like a cluster of like has-beens, I guess, yeah. For lack of a better word.
Yeah, because I think like Trae, I've always felt this way. Like I feel like his shooting numbers are like artificially low because of how difficult his shot diet is. Like I feel like if Trae really got to play, was willing to play off the ball more and was like getting some more open, easy looks, like I feel like Trae would become all of a sudden this like crazy efficient shooter.
Yeah, I think you're probably right about that. That makes sense to me.
All right. That was the Dejounte Murray / Trae Young / Hawks surgery. I don't know what we'd call that section.
Yeah, it'll be, I don't know. It must be frustrating to be a Hawks fan right now, but there's hope. There's hope. At least they have young talent.
Yeah.
Okay, where are we going next?
Are we going to the foul prone player of the week? I know we teased talking Raptors a little bit. I haven't had the time this week, unfortunately, like deep dive into Raptors. I saw them at that Lakers game, which was obviously the crazy foul controversy game. You saw them in person as well. I mean, quickly, man, on this team is like, it's kind of weird. Like last year, the Raptors, it was like, this team can't shoot. And this year, it's like, damn, this team can shoot.
Yeah. Honestly,
I don't know the percentages. Like, I know Scotty's shooting well. But like seeing them in person, it's like Scotty driving, and Scotty's kind of not like this great passer, right? Like, which is weird because I really thought he was going to be when he was a rookie. But like, it's a lot of like Scotty drives in, takes the 1 or 2 dribbles, like kick out pass. It's very basic driving kick from a lot of their guys. It's not a lot of advanced playmaking, but it's still like a lot of like, Scotty's big and strong and physical, and like he kind of draws that half double and he kicks out, and like Gary Trent can shoot. Siakam can, I know percentage wise can't really shoot, but like he will shoot open threes. Like
he's streaky.
He's streaky. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I was really impressed. I watched them without Pascal Siakam and without Jakob Poeltl. And one, I was really impressed with RJ Barrett. Like, he was just playing with like a little bit of a pep in his step.
So RJ played really well in the game I went to as well. But Patrick, especially against the Clippers guys, because Kawhi and like Paul George especially is like a really big wing. RJ Barrett looks like a college kid out there. His stature, like in person, like he's small.
Yeah, he's shorter than you think, but I do think he has a little thickness to him. He has
I don't
kind
know
of
if it's
a
just
weird
because the
build.
Lakers are such a big team, but like seeing him out there next to LeBron, and it was like, oh my God, please don't get hurt.
He had a couple really nice like cross court kick out passes. He was shooting like really confidently.
At the game I went to, I remember I looked up at the scoreboard and I was like, RJ Barrett has 22 points. Like it feels like he has like 6 points, but he had 22 points when I looked up like midway through the third quarter. It was crazy.
The way you felt about Scotty Barnes going into his career is the same way I felt about RJ Barrett going into his career from like a passing standpoint. When he was at Duke, he had like these little flashes. Of course, he didn't play with the ball all that much, but he had these little flashes of like being a good passer. Everyone talked about like, oh, he's Steve Nash's godson. Like Steve Nash taught him how to pass.
That's so interesting because one reason I really hated him in the draft was I thought he was one of the worst passers because he had Zion on his team, and there was just a lot of plays where it's like, dude, give Zion the fucking ball.
Yeah.
And I think part of that is like, okay, like I was the top prospect. Like I want to get my 20 points per game. And that can be hard when you arrive to Duke and it's like, okay, this Zion guy is on a different level.
Yeah. And I mean, in college, especially, Zion was not like, he was a bit of a ball stopper. And we all know the Cam Reddish experience as well. Now we're getting into 2019 Duke talk.
Back to the Raptors.
Back to the Raptors.
RJ's been a great like fit on this team. Quickly's been really good on this team. Like Quickly's giving them shooting.
The floater game is just so sick.
Did Quickly make any threes in the game you went to? He had this like really exaggerated 3-point celebration where he like gallops up and down the court while throwing his arms into the air. And I thought it was really funny.
Wow. He didn't do that. And it was a really intense game. It was weird. And the Clippers crowd did not come out for the Wednesday game against the Raptors.
Shout out to Raptors Nation. Like that Lakers game I went to, so many Raptors jerseys.
I was surprised by the same thing. I guess it's an easy sell to be like, okay, I'll go to LA and watch a back-to-back of my favorite team.
So it's weird. The Raptors were not a great team before this trade. They've been really good since this trade. Obviously, they just lost 2 straight, but like the Lakers game, really, really close game, and there was, the controversy with the calls. Your Clippers game, we talked about.
Yeah, back and forth game the whole time. You didn't have Pascal Siakam. You're starting Thad Young at center in both of these games.
Because I didn't watch the Clippers game, but at least at the Lakers game I went to, like foul calls aside, like one thing that was constant from the moment the game tipped off was like they had no answer for Anthony Davis the entire game. And like I know Poeltl's hurt, like I saw Poeltl on the bench, but like I guess like I feel like with the Raptors now, like I was a bit lower on this trade. I feel like I'm wrong just watching them in person. Like this seems very sustainable to me. Like what do you think the next step for that team is?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's figuring out what kind of big you have to play next to Scotty Barnes. Can Scotty Barnes be a 37% three-point shooter to the point where you feel like you can play with truly like a strictly dive big, or do you have to get a big that has a little bit of shooting in his portfolio as well?
Yeah, I feel like Scotty's shot like is kind of legit because it hasn't really been a season of like 8 of 9, 3 of 10. Like it has kind of been a pretty steady like 3-point percentage throughout the season. It hasn't been the result of like a prolonged hot streak that's averaged out over time. So I'm kind of confident in Scotty's shot going forward, which is surprising, honestly, given like the free throw percentage and everything. But like, yeah, I don't know. I think they need a rim protector. Yeah. I don't know if that guy I don't know on offense if that guy needs to be able to space out to at least the mid range a little bit. But I know defensively, like they're not going to survive like a Sixers series or like if the Lakers were in the East, like they can't survive an Anthony Davis series.
Yeah, or like the Timberwolves. Yeah,
yeah, they couldn't survive a Cat series, I don't think either.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what a Pascal Siakam move could be for them. I mean, would you trade Pascal Siakam?
I would. I know we did this a while ago actually, and I said maybe kind of keep Siakam and just see what happens, maybe try to re-sign him. So you saw them without Siakam and they were right there. The Laker game I went to, like Siakam was actually like the 4th leading scorer on the team, and there were like Siakam, like, you know, incredible finisher, man. Like he had some insane acrobatic finishes at the game I went to, but like I kind of do feel like they could be a better team if they just replace Siakam with like a more like, I don't know if there's a player like this in the NBA, but like a Channing Frye type player.
Yeah.
Obviously, that kind of player usually can't defend like Siakam can.
Chet. They just need Chet.
They just need Chet. But at the game I went to, for example, right, like Siakam was like the main guy in AD, and like he kind of was coned out there. Like,
yeah.
So it's like in a game like that, you might have better value just getting that floor space. And I think this is kind of why, like, going back to those Brooklyn Nets guys, like, man, if Cam Johnson was in that spot and he's sitting in the corner every game, like that offense is really hard to stop.
Yeah. I mean, I would love to see that.
And like Siakam's a better player than Cam Johnson, but it is the fit thing.
Yeah, I think the defense might take a real step back. But I'm kind of in the place where it's like he's an expiring deal. Go cash in your chips. I don't think he's on the next great Raptors team, Pascal Siakam, as much as like I'm sure Raptors fans hope that he would be. But I wouldn't really be shopping for like a package of picks if I'm the Raptors. After that Knicks trade, I think you have enough young guys to where it's like it would be much more valuable in my mind to look for another like kind of bang for your buck young guy who maybe hasn't like solidified themselves as a star yet, but has at least some potential to do so.
So I feel like on a lot of these teams, you're a little hesitant to trade for picks. I guess my fear with a team like the Raptors kind of going a little all in now is like, I just don't know in the next 2 years what they're going to do to be better than Boston or Milwaukee or Philly even. Like, I don't know.
But that's okay to me because Scotty Barnes is still on his rookie deal.
But then why not try to get more assets to kind of prop yourself up in like 3 years?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I'm definitely more amenable to like getting a package of picks if I'm the Raptors than like the Hawks. But I don't know. They also just seem kind of close.
I think. See, I know they've been playing really, really well lately, and I do kind of like this new team construction. But we see this a lot, like these 10-game spurts where teams maybe go 2-8. Like the Lakers are not a 2-8 team for all their drama, for all their faults, and like the Timberwolves, we're seeing it now. Like they're not a 5-5 team like they've been in their last 10, but they're probably not a team that's going 9-1 every 10 games either. They're probably closer to like a 7-3. Team, and I think that's what you kind of see.
The Pistons are really an 0-10 team.
I don't know if they are. They might be.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's my worry though with some of these East teams. It's like I feel like there just is a big gap between the top 3.5 and the rest of the East.
Yeah, there definitely is. But I guess that's my thing is like if you can get like another guy to like add to this core. the Raptors still have all their picks.
Like, all right, I guess this is a weird comparison, but like early 2010s when Boston and Brooklyn made the trade to get like Pierce and Garnett, I was like, it's cool you've built this team with like the Celtics guys, but like you're still not as good as the Heat. So what are you going to accomplish? Like this team is just straight up not going to beat the Heat.
Yeah.
So like, what are you hoping to accomplish here? And like obviously that trade did a lot of damage to their franchise. But like even at the time it was like, okay, but Pierce is getting older, Garnett's getting older, like LeBron is like literally at his apex. Like how are you planning on competing with the Heat right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think that they were able to tell themselves that they were on that same level. I mean, they still had prime Darren Williams. They still had prime Joe Johnson, but that's prime Darren Williams and Joe Johnson.
But like what team has had more delusion about their own quality of team than Toronto in the last 3 seasons?
That is true. That is true.
Because like for everything on this hot streak, right? The Raptors, like again, I don't want to sound pessimistic. I really like what I'm seeing from the Raptors post OG trade, and I really don't think these 2 losses to the LA teams has any meaning, but the trade didn't happen on day 1 of the season. It happened now. They're 15-23. Like, I think they can get up to a play-in spot, just given how good they've been and how good they could keep being. But like, a first round against the Celtics or the Bucks screams like we're going to lose.
It's done. But I don't know.
Which, like,
I don't think that's like. I think it's okay.
Yeah, no, that is
not
okay.
Be a championship contender.
Somebody has to be the 8th seed. So I don't want to make it. I agree with you that I don't like the discourse of like, if you're not going to win the title, then absolutely tank. But my only worry is like when you're not acquiring some future assets, you don't need to tank. But when you're just making lateral moves, you can kind of get stuck being in that 40 win range, and if you don't have a lucky break, it's kind of hard to then get to 55 wins. Sometimes.
But wouldn't you say like Emmanuel Quickley and RJ Barrett, those are future assets? You know, those are guys that are going to be on the Raptors for a long time, presumably, and can get better. That's the kind of guy that I would want them to trade Pascal Siakam for, instead of just like these like fake first round picks. Like, where are you trading Pascal Siakam? Once he gets there, they're going to be really good. You know, because you're not trading for Pascal Siakam if you don't have grand visions of your own future.
But to harken back to our first Raptors trade pod with Siakam, because we talked about this before OG was traded, like Siakam's like shooting has been going down every single season. And I know earlier I was like, Siakam, he'll shoot it. Like, I do think like that's why Siakam's going to be hard to trade, because he is an unrestricted free agent. He said he wants to explore his future on his own. Like, and the shooting is going down. And I think that's the thing with a lot of teams. It's like not a lot of teams can support a not true 5 who's like not a great shooter.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. That's why I think it's going to be hard. Like, I don't want your garbage first round picks is what I'm saying.
But if I'm one of those other teams, I'm like, well, I don't want to give you anything of value. Like, what if this guy comes in and he shoots 25% from 3 the rest of the season?
Yeah, then you don't get Pascal Siakam.
I think they're stuck with Siakam.
They very well might be. And honestly, after the trade for IQ and RJ, maybe I'm okay with that from a Raptors perspective. Maybe I just sign Pascal Siakam to another contract and just keep rolling that snowball and seeing, like, I don't know, if like Scotty Barnes really pops and the Raptors are like the 4 seed next year, like maybe we want to keep Pascal, or we can rehab his value enough to where we can get something for him. But at the end of the day, he's still making like $35 million. So you're going to get contracts back.
Yeah, I think where I'm at with the Raptors, like Scotty's 22. We'll see what Scotty looks like on like the title contender build of this team, if he's the 1B, the 1A. But like, he's 22. Like, I think the Raptors, I guess, yeah, to your point, like, there is no harm now that you have more young guys built around this team to like just be an 8th seed, be the 6th seed the year after that, be a 5 seed the year after that. Like, let it grow slowly. But my only worry is like 3 years from now, we're like, okay, Barrett got a little bit better. Quickly's good, but he's kind of undersized. Scotty is probably a 2 on a title team. And it's like, okay, how do we get our 1A guy now that we've waited so long?
Yeah. I'm thinking,
but like, I mean, like, that's the NBA, right?
So he makes $37 million. I've got the Pacers pulled up. Like a Benedict Mathurin kind of guy. I would be down. Obviously, there's a little bit of repetition there now, but I would be down to like take him on. Can you get like, I don't know, would they trade like a Miles Turner for contracts? $37 million is a lot of money.
Yeah. All right. That's the Raptors. We'll do a more.
He's going to be on the Warriors.
We'll do a more proper deep dive into this year's Raptors in a future episode. But shall we get to the foul-prone player of the week?
Yes, we shall. This is a little new bit that we're doing where we are taking the entire NBA's foul stats from the last week alone. We're only looking at it in that portion of time. And me and James are both going to nominate a player that is our foul-prone player of the week, and we're going to give them the crown. So we haven't really talked much about this. I'm not sure how you are going to attack your nominee. I've got my nominee. Can you start us off, James?
So my nominee balled out last night before ultimately they choked the game away. I'm going to go with Alperen Şengün.
There we go.
Because, Patrick, you sent us the players who committed the most fouls, and there was like 6 guys who committed 15 fouls this week, and probably because it's alphabetical, but Şengün was at the top of the list. So I felt like, for my initial shout out to Şengün, I've loved Şengün's game for a while now, and he's my foul-prone player of the week for no real reason.
Yeah, I mean, hey, 15 fouls, that's pretty elite for a 1-week span. He did foul out of a full game on the 8th, which is awesome. We're always looking for that in candidates. I've got a different guy. I've got a much lower usage guy. His name is Ibu Baji. He plays for the Portland Trailblazers, and he has had 14 fouls in the last week. But the reason why I just found him, Baji, as such a great candidate for this award is he's only played 69 minutes, which every other player that has had either 14 or 15 fouls in the last week has well over 100 minutes played. But really, he had one game that really encapsulated this week for him. Against the Dallas Mavericks, Ibu Baji fouled out. He had 6 fouls, 0 points, and he only played 15 minutes.
Okay, he's got to win.
Come on. It takes skill to be that foul prone. So, I don't know. Max, do you have any thoughts about our foul prone player of the week?
Off the top of my head, I don't have one, but I love the Şengün pick.
Yeah, Şengün, he loves to foul. He's at the top of the leaderboards for the season. Yeah, Jordan Poole, he had a few. I think he had 2 techs this week.
I know this isn't a prestigious award, but I just don't want to award Jordan Poole anything.
I understand that.
What about most annoying guy award?
Ooh.
Hey, don't know him personally.
Too harsh?
There's a lot of
not harsh enough.
Okay.
Okay, well, congratulations, Ibu Baji. You are the first foul-prone, foul trouble podcast player of the week. We will continue to award these on Friday, and then I think eventually we'll find a foul-prone player of the year award.
Draymond won.
Yeah, Draymond.
It's been wrapped up for this season. I'm sorry to all the other nominees.
Yeah, he is a hot contender for that award. It's going to be hard.
I will say, actually, I was watching a compilation of Draymond ejections, and it's if you're ever bored, it's a good time just to trip down memory lane. Kind of went back to the 2016 playoffs when he kicked LeBron in the nuts.
You a WWE fan?
What's crazy is that happened a week and a half after he kicked Steven Adams in the nuts.
Yeah. And then there's
it was an accident.
The one where LeBron steps over him, and then LeBron reaches up and punches him in the nuts. I don't know if you remember that one, but. Or sorry, Draymond reaches up and punches.
That's
LeBron.
the one that got him suspended, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the one that made him miss Game 4 of the.
I don't think he got ejected for this in the playoffs last year, but there was a play where he gouged LeBron in the eye, pretty badly in the playoffs last year.
Is that the one where LeBron made the shot while he was seeing triple or whatever?
It might have been.
Okay. I think it was.
The Sabonis chest stomp.
That might be the worst one.
It's an all-timer.
I feel like as an NBA community, we did not give enough credence to how dangerous that was when it happened.
I mean, like, you see guys kick other guys in the nuts all the time.
That happens sometimes.
You
play
don't see
basketball.
someone chest stomp someone.
It's not. He didn't step on him. He full on like raised his knee and forcefully lowered it.
All right. Well, we'll see if anybody can catch up with Draymond in this award race. You guys ready to do hot streak shooting slump?
Yep.
All right. I'll start off. I am on a bit of a hot streak this week.
Let's go.
Back at work. It's been a good. Just like getting back on my schedule is nice. I'm glad to just be getting back in the normal run of things. Had a lot of fun at the Clippers Raptors game last night. It's been a tough week of Suns fandom, but that's okay. Every other week is at this point. Other than I got an iPad. I'm loving it.
It looks nice and gold.
Yeah, it's really been nice for my workflow. I've got my laptop, can get a game up on the TV, then working off the iPad as well. So yeah, just been generally a pretty good week. What about you?
Dude, I'm on a heater.
There we go.
Week 2 of the hot streak. I'm also pretty much back at work. I've been uploading videos. All the videos I've been uploading have been doing well. People have been really liking them, so I've been really excited to see that. So Tuesday, I went to a restaurant called Sushi Gen with my financial advisor / manager, and we get there at 4:45. It opens at 5. There is like a long line. And we're like, oh my God, we're not going to get a table. So we get in line, and we're the only white people in line, which is really funny. But it's also like, okay, maybe we found something here.
This is going to be good.
Dude, the best sushi I've had in my entire life. And I seek out nice, expensive sushi restaurants. I've been to like Nobu. I've been to like more like hole-in-the-wall places. But like, dude, like, I'm not even kidding, the best sushi I've ever had. We got the omakase, like the chef's choice, like absolutely fucking incredible. Thank God I didn't pay. It was like one of those like it was. Do you want to know how much the bill was?
Yeah.
2 omakases. You guys are going to vomit when you hear this number.
Oh God.
Take a guess.
I want to say each person was like $500.
Okay, no. It was $423 after tip.
Oh, okay.
So that's probably like a $350 meal. Like,
Yeah, that's a nice meal.
dude, like it was like fish that I didn't like from other sushi restaurants. I was like, fuck, this is good.
There's nothing better than some just like nice,
really good melt in your mouth
fresh,
sushi.
Yeah. Oh.
Dude, like the highlight for me, because I'm a big sushi guy. Like obviously, like if you love sushi, you love Toro. Like that's like the cream of the crop. But like it was like different tuna nigiri, but it was like, you know, increasing in fat content. So it was going from like a normal tuna to a full like really fatty Toro, but it was like the gradient between them, and it was like lined up, and I was like, oh my God,
And
dude.
it's just like
Yeah, it's like, and I was
mouth.
like, do I start like more like tough and go to like, yeah, and it was like each piece was like more tender than the next, and it was just, oh, dude, hot. I love sushi. I'm a big foodie, and yeah,
Love that for you. Love that for you. What about you, Max?
I hate to be that guy, but I'm in a mild slump this week.
No, we need a slump. Slumps
yeah,
are good for the show.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you guys watched any of that Celtics-Wolves game the other night, but it was like really close, and then it went into overtime, and the Wolves just completely deflated and lost all of the sauce. That's kind of how I feel. I feel like I'm right there, and then something happens. I just
All
can't.
falls apart.
Jayson Tatum just fucking hits a dagger
Rips
three.
your throat out.
Yeah.
He's pretty good.
Yeah, he's kind of good at basketball is what I'm noticing. Yeah, but, you know, I'm just a little tired, a little off this week, but I really feel like next week is going to be kind of killer.
Hell yeah.
I see that for you.
Thanks,
yeah.
bro.
Yeah, no problem, dude.
Hey, at the end of the month, I am going to Suns versus Heat. So the Suns took game 1, but hopefully we win game 2.
Yeah, and then we'll decide it in the finals.
Yeah. All right. Thank you guys for watching the Foul Trouble Podcast. Love you guys. Thank you for supporting the show. We will see you the rest of 2024. Peace.